Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Trail Network podcast. I'm Hillary Yang. On this episode, we dive into Rachel's win at the Gorge 30K last weekend. We talk about how she fueled her day and some of the ways that we all adapt our nutrition needs depending on the race length and conditions, as well as some of our go-to pre-race meals. We also share some of our thoughts on paying attention to your body and your perceived effort while training, and the importance of running your own race, no matter what. We hope you'll take away some useful tips for your own races. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Trail Network podcast. This week, I am your host, Hillary Yang, and I am joined by my lovely friends and cohorts.
Katie Asma,
Rachel Drake,
and Leah Yingling.
What's going on, everybody? So nice to see you. I just wanted to say, first of all, that this is very quickly becoming one of the highlights of my week. It's just super fun to see all of you guys and get the chance to catch up. I feel very spoiled getting to have so much FaceTime with you guys. So I'm very much looking forward to this. We have some big things to cover tonight. And the first one is we're going to dive into Rachel's weekend because, Rachel, you had a little bit of a busy weekend, didn't you?
Yeah. Okay, I also want to say I also love this moment in the week because, okay, the reason that I wanted to do this podcast is because I wanted more interactions with you gals. So just so fun. Yeah, so Friday I ran the Gorge Waterfalls 30K. And then Friday night I flew to Anaheim for the Society for Pediatric Anesthesia Conference, where I presented a poster and got to meet one of my future co-residents. And then flew back Saturday afternoon and did another big run in the Gorge on Sunday. So it was like the perfect sandwich of running and medicine.
You went from the Gorge to Anaheim and back? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I liked your feet up in the airport video photos on Instagram. I was like, Rachel's doing it right. She's academia, she's racing, she's resting, she's doing it all.
I was like full on splooting in the airport with my queso from Qdoba, just like, what is life?
Such a good feeling. Were you sore after your race? Okay, first of all, walk us through your race. Like, what did you tackle and how did it go?
Yeah, well, I was talking about this a little bit before we started recording, just how I didn't feel like I didn't know if I wanted to race. I just have been having like a couple little injury niggles. I don't know if other people know that word, but that's the word I use for like
just I like that word.
Just a little pain. And then also I've had a kid cold for probably about a week. We put Lewis in the church nursery on Easter and he got a lovely snotty nose that I also got. So I was just not feeling 100%, but it's not like a good practice, I think, to only race when you're feeling 100%. So I'm glad that I did. It was stacked. I was like, I can't look at this start list because it just keeps going with these crushers. I think there was a 2:30 marathoner in the race as well, doing her trail debut. I think her name was Amanda.
All these road runners, it's like, no, what are you doing?
It's so fun. I love it. Like, it was great. I had a bunch of friends that I train with, and fellow mothers also doing the race, so that was fun.
Do you feel like you have to block it out? Like you can't look at everyone and like know who's gonna race, or like does it matter?
I kind of like to not know because I feel like I'll just sort of think I'll perseverate on like, oh well, I have no business beating this person, but then you can't really visualize yourself just like having the day that you're meant to have. And that doesn't necessarily mean winning. It just means like, pushing hard for you and knowing that you gave your all, wherever that ends up placing you. And I feel like sometimes if there's too much chatter in your brain about who else is in the race, you can lose sight of that goal of like, my goal for the race was to really just have a super hard effort and race and have fun. And that's exactly what I did. And yeah, it was great.
I have a question, Rach. So I was watching the live stream. It's so fun to watch you on the live stream. I'm like, Debo has the camera. He's following behind you for a couple miles, and
Did you hear him breathing on that?
oh yeah, he was breathing hard, which was even better, right? Like
You made him work for it.
It would have been way less epic. But he's following behind you. He's breathing hard, and you're just so smooth, and you're just like rocks, and the climbs like don't even bother you. You just look like so smooth. But I am curious if you were not bothered, but like if it kind of took you out of your race set to have somebody following behind you. Like what did that how do you feel when somebody's following you with a camera?
Good question, Katie.
Yeah, okay, there's a couple things to unpack here. I feel like at first I loved it because it pushed me. I was like, okay, well, I want to run fast because I'm being recorded. I want to like have a beautiful stride because I'm being recorded. So I'm going to focus on my form. It sounds really like vain from a runner perspective, but it helped.
No, we get
and
it.
then at some point it was like, okay, it's been like a mile and a half. Like I had peed my pants already in the race, and I swear it's like a postpartum running fast thing because I didn't pee my pants at Black Canyon. But I was like, I can't pee my pants. I can't pull off and pee because this is live. I guess I could tell him like, hey, can you go away so I can pee? But yeah, so that was a little bit like challenging because it is obvious when you pee your pants because with your legs moving as quickly as they are, like the urine just kind of like splashes.
Just be like, watch out.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I liked it. And I mean, Debo's my friend, so it wasn't just like a stranger annoyingly following me. I enjoyed it. It just like it affected me in the sense that I think I probably ran faster than I would have had he have not been there, and I felt like I couldn't take care of some business that I needed to take care of because he was also right there.
But I mean, I could say that could derail your race, right? Like maybe you're running too hard. Maybe that's a tempo and like for those 2 miles that you weren't expecting to like
No,
hard.
I mean,
you know, I can imagine
I wasn't going that hard.
Want to run, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's on you though. Like you control your
Yeah.
body, you know? Like, yeah.
It is interesting. I think about that too, even with like the drones and like all the other things that are coming into trail running. It's like we're kind of saying we want to be out there communing with nature and having this experience. And then we add in all these distractions. And I mean, it's nothing compared to like running UTMB or something like that with the crowds, but it is still sort of like something that pulls you out of the moment that you have to just sort of like not focus on. And we all love watching it. So I think no one's saying like, let's not have a live stream, but it is just kind of, even from the media part of it, I always wonder like how much I'm taking people out of the moment, especially like say in an aid station when I'm like right in there and you're trying to do stuff and get out. And like everyone knows that it's good to have that content, but it's also like hard to work around. Like, I mean, Leah, you probably feel that too, right?
Yeah, and I was thinking a lot about like what I want to capture when I'm doing commentary at aid stations in these heated moments at golden ticket races, for example. And like I want to hear what's going on between the crews. Like I want to hear what the runner is telling the crew. And oftentimes I'm sure the runner does not want the whole public knowing what they're saying to their crew. Like I really wanted to be like in the center of Rachel's crew circle at like Table Mesa at Black Canyon. Like that would have been so cool. And I want to share that with the world. But I know from my perspective, when I come into an aid station, I'm like whispering things to Mike, and I don't want people next to me hearing it. So that part, I think, is something that we'll have to come to terms with if we want more media coverage at races, is like those things that we want to keep a little bit more private are probably going to stop being so private.
It's totally a strategy. Like even I remember Courtney at Hard Rock last year because everybody wanted to hear how she's doing. And I know like she and Kevin had those conversations before they even came into the aid station so that she could just come in and look great. And like, you know, like there's a little bit of a psychological game that you're playing instead of the aid station being like your safe spot to like do all these things. All of a sudden it's like, no, I got to look super strong because everybody's gonna be talking about it when I leave and like picking up all this stuff. And yeah.
I remember you guys, I was running from Bath Road to Forest Hill last Western States, and I'm with my pacer. And at that time it was kind of like a low, but I know it was going into Forest Hill. So Forest Hill's like definitely hypes you up. And I'm running up and I'm like, it's like a walk run at that point. I was kind of like a low moment for me. And I'm telling her like, all right, this is the things I'm going to need. I want you to tell the crew, I need this, I need Coke, I need whatever. I'm like telling her the things, but I'm confiding in her that I wasn't feeling my best self. Right. And just to the right of me is Taylor Nolan and Paul Lind, her coach, and they're silent. It was like, I had no idea they were there, and they were just sitting there listening. And I don't know, Taylor, I don't care. I don't think, whatever. It felt
Taylor's so sweet.
Taylor's
She's
supposed
the
to,
best.
that was not her strategy. She was not trying to like listen in how I was feeling, but it caught me so off guard that it definitely got in my head. And I don't usually get in my head when I'm racing, but it was like, what the heck? They're trying to like, and I mean, later it's also because you're in a low moment. So your brain starts to spiral. And of course, after I got my calories in and whatever, and then I see Taylor on the trail and we're like chatting and like, Taylor's amazing. I like adore her. And maybe it was Paul can be a little strategy goer sometimes. And I was like, I don't know. I think there are times where you just need some space with your crew and your pacers. And I also think it's okay to say it, like, I need space, it doesn't happen very often. I feel like it's only when you're in a low that like you need calories. Like you're like irritable and you just need some space.
Totally. If you feel great, you're like, this is fine. Everyone can know I feel great. But
Totally,
it's like,
totally. When you're in the best space. Yeah, for sure.
Calories are always the answer.
For sure.
yeah. I mean, okay, good segue, Rachel, because I wanted to pick your brain on your calories and fueling for Gorge. Because, I mean, and you're not going to brag, but I'll brag for you. Rachel won and it just like crushed it. But you posted afterwards that you were consuming like 90 grams of carbs an hour, which kind of blew my mind because I really struggle with fueling. And I wanted to know exactly like what you're doing out there. I'm like, I need to know.
Did we say that?
Okay.
Did we say she won yet? Have we talked about that?
I just humble bragged for her. So
it's not about winning. It's about trying hard and eating a lot of food.
Yeah, but you did really good too. So there's that.
Okay, so before the race, I usually like to plan by the hour. So like I was thinking about doing, I think like 60 to 70 grams per hour. And I looked on Ultra Sign Up at the historic times, which only was 1 year. Bailey Kowalczyk ran 2 hours and 20 minutes last year. So I was like, okay, 2 hours plus a little bit, plus a insurance gel. But I think my eyes just blurred the 2 and I thought it was a 3. So I actually was planning for a 3-hour race. So I think I brought 6 gels with me. And they were mostly 40 to 45 grams. Like an awesome sauce is 45 grams of carbs. So if you eat 2 of those in an hour, that's 90 grams. So I had 6 gels and I ate one like 10 minutes before the start. That's something I highly recommend. Not only does it kind of just top you up, but it also, I envision it signaling to my body like, hey, you need to keep your blood flowing to your gut because we need to be continuing to digest. It's not just fight or flight right now. It's also a little bit of, I don't want to use the word rest, but rest and digest.
Mm-hmm.
And then just as I was running, I was feeling just a little bit crabby. And I was like, I had Keely in my ear. I've been running with Keely Henninger like 5 days a week, I swear. And I listen to Trail Society, and I just feel like anytime I'm talking to Keely when we're on a run, she'll just be, if I'm like crabby or I, I feel a little starry eyed. She's always just, her answer is like, maybe you should eat something. Maybe you should eat something. So I was eating more frequently just because I felt like I needed a little bit extra. And that resulted in me eating through all 6 of my gels. Plus I grabbed a few at the last aid station. I think I had one additional one. So yeah, it came out to 89 grams per hour.
That's awesome.
Mostly through gels and then a little bit in liquid calories.
Do you stick with gels when you get into longer stuff? Like, what do you guys find works? I'm running Leona Divide this weekend, so I need all the info. So yeah, now I'm doing this strategically. I need all of your thoughts.
What distance are you running?
The 55K.
Cool.
It's a training run.
I'm curious what Leah and Katie are gonna say.
Yeah, I am so hungry when I race. It's next level. Like I'm reflecting back on Katie and I ran way too cool 50K last year. And I'll comment a little bit about some of the VO2 max and lactate threshold testing I did early last year with the Canadian Sport Institute with Lululemon in preparation for further. But a lot of the science that came out of it was, the shorter distances that you're going, the shorter effort, let's say like marathon distance for example, and like marathon effort, like the grams of carbs that you need is quite high. And then as you start going longer distances, your requirements are actually a little less. So maybe for 24 hours for me, that might be like 60 grams of carbs an hour. But if I'm doing a marathon, targeting like 90 grams of carb is ideal. In Way Too Cool last year, I ran just over 4 hours. I think I consumed 13 gels in that race, which it ended up being like I usually plan for about every 30 minutes. I was taking a gel like every 15 to 20 minutes. I think just because it was like a faster race than I was used to. And I also don't think like my pre-race nutrition, like Rachel was talking about, kind of topping herself off before the start was ideal. But then I've been in other races where I'm not that hungry. But I think it's just really listening to your body in those moments. If you're hungry, especially, like eat, but also recognizing like you don't need to stick to a 30-minute schedule by any means. Like if you're hungry at 15 minutes or if you feel like you need something at 15 minutes, eat that. Like there's been races where I take like a goo, for example, usually 100 calories in those, 25, 30 grams of carbs. And I've taken a consecutive one right after that. If I'm like, oh, that didn't do it, I need another. And it works. And I think just feeding your body as much as you can.
I think that the same principles apply to dinner, where it's like you eat dinner and you're hungry 20 minutes later, eat another dinner. Like just listen to your hunger cues.
I just did that the other day. So I remember when I first started, and I made a scrapbook for my first 100 miler. I thought I was going to be one and done, right? Like I did it. The 100 mile
That's so cute.
I made a scrapbook, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to do this again and again. I never made one since. But I was looking through it because I was being nostalgic and whatnot, and came across my eating plan, and it was so interesting because it's none of the stuff I use anymore, and just as to like reiterate how I think people think they're going to find what works for them and then it's always going to work for them. And that's not the case. And that's why, for instance, the feed, I'm not trying to plug them. I'm just saying like being able to get those single servings is really helpful because then you start to like be able to experiment with different kinds of things. Like my first 100, I was eating Cliff gels, which I haven't had a Cliff gel in, I don't know, 8 years. But like I just wasn't eating the same kind of stuff and definitely different. Like now I aim for 75, 80 carbs an hour, and the longer distance. And yeah, I was probably getting 40 grams, at my first 100. I didn't know what I was doing, but it's fun to look back and be like, wow, grown since then. But now I really try and get just whenever I have a gel, I want it to be like quality. I want 40 grams plus. Like I love those pH hydration ones that are the 90 grams and you can just like squeeze the whole thing or like kind of sip it as you go. And within 10 minutes it's gone. And there you go. You can do a couple of those if you want it. I don't know. I feel like they go down really well. I'm really a big fan of simple and efficient and just get it in. And yeah, I don't know. I like the big carb gels is what I go for.
Do you continue that for 100 milers? Like, do you guys continue using like the easy carb gel strategy the whole time? Do you get like gel fatigue at any point?
No, I'm a monster. I can eat gels for
What's your record?
days.
Best kind of monster. Western States, I've done exclusively off of gels both times now. UTMB, all gels except for a little bit of solids. I should have had more solid food there. I think once you start going past that, like 22 to 24 hours, I really require just substantial real food. But
that's a lot of
I
meals
really
you're missing.
I think everything below 24 hours, gels.
I think it depends how fast you're running too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you
guys are faster than me.
Hillary, Tyler and I were just talking about that the other day. Like the the missing of meals. I mean, even for obviously for races and 100-miler, you're missing kind of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, you eat kind of a light breakfast before, but that's a lot of meals you're missing. And we
Yeah.
miss meals in training too. Like if you go for a run, you start at 8 and you run until 2, you kind of miss lunch. Maybe you eat a late lunch, but I was really patting myself on the back this weekend. I was meeting a friend out in the Gorge on Sunday, and I thought I was going to run like 13 miles, and I was driving past a McDonald's and I was like, I'm going to get some chicken McNuggets. And I'm so glad I did, because that run ended up being longer than we thought. And like, I mean, yeah, I would have missed my whole lunch if I hadn't, even if I'm eating, 80 grams of carbs on the run, that's still net negative.
Totally. That's just like leveling you out, right? Like that's just like
Mhm.
functioning. That's not actually like nutrition in the bank.
Right.
Okay, I have a question. What do you guys do about how do you remind yourself to eat? The reason I ask is because I was looking at a picture of the scrapbook and I had my watch, like my Kronos watch, and then I was Garmin at the time, and then I had a Timex like watch that would go beep 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 beep, and like wouldn't let me not.
Every 30 minutes?
It was every
That'd be so annoying.
You probably made so many friends.
yeah. Oh my God, can you believe I did that? But it was because the other watch that I had didn't like it like vibrated.
Yeah.
It wasn't enough to like jostle me
Oh
into.
my gosh.
And so it made me do it. And now I just know that I have to eat. And I'm always like the entire time I'm thinking about when's my next gel? When's the next gel? It's like nonstop thinking about when I need to eat. But it's just interesting. Yeah. What are your cues? Or do you guys just look at your watch and go, okay, at this time I need to eat? Or what do you guys do? I'm curious.
Yeah, I'm a big mental math person when I'm running. Like I never look at mileage on my watch. My screen is always set to time. So I'm always just looking at time and 20, 25 minutes. And it's like you said, it's like a treat. I'm looking forward to it. It's just like how I perceive my crew in a race. It's something to look forward to. I'm looking forward to my gel. So when I get my gel, it makes me
Little
happy.
treat.
So I'm like counting down 20 minutes and like just always doing mental math because that also distracts me too.
Having a little fika on the trail.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever use that word?
Nope.
It's like okay, when I was
Please define it.
when I was in grad school, this girl that was in the lab next door, I don't know, we were kind of into like Scandinavian culture. And so I used to have a woman in my lab who's from Sweden, so we kind of learned it from her, but it's basically like afternoon snack time.
Like an après. Like a ski.
Yeah.
So rather than siesta, which would
Yeah.
also be nice.
Yeah, it's very, I don't know, it just gives me warm fuzzies when I hear that word. It's like cookie and coffee.
Mm.
Yeah.
I like that. Sounds lovely. Yeah, I've always struggled with eating. I think it's my Achilles heel. Like I get nauseous and then I just go on strike and I somehow think that I can do an entire race on like the Coca-Cola and watermelon I get at the aid stations. And I've done that like more times than I care to admit. I just like the nausea is something that I've really struggled. And once that sets in, but I will say that my most successful race that I fueled well, not successful like overall, but like I was proud of myself was like Sonoma a couple years ago, and I did the 50-miler and my crew put all my Spring Energy gels in a cooler and they were like cold.
Mm.
And then every time I came into the aid station, they would like, I would swap out whatever I hadn't eaten and I would take like 4 cold awesome sauce out with me. And that was so good. And that really helped. And so since then I've been sort of playing with like things like that. Like, of course it makes sense that like a warm, mushy gel isn't going to taste great when I'm already like feeling a little nauseous. And so for me, just like, yeah, making it super cold, I'm like, okay, like I like that. That feels good. So that and like a whole bunch of Pepto-Bismol, but
I don't know if this was like strategic, but I feel like Spring has been making their gels a little bit less viscous. And I feel like that makes them go down so easily. It's like more like drinking something than eating something. I feel like that helps.
SIS for the win all the way.
Yeah, SIS is nice and liquidy too.
So good.
Yeah, I've actually been, and I'm not sponsored by anyone, but I like the Precision Fuel gels. They've been really good to me because they're like no flavor. And it is interesting. It's like, yeah, Katie, to your point, like what I started with like 11 years ago versus what I'm using now, like wildly different. And for a while, I went like totally real food, and now I'm back to like pouring gels down my throat because I think it is like the most efficient, like I don't think I look forward to them like you do, Leah. It's not exactly like my favorite part of the hour or half hour, but I need to learn your ways.
Yeah.
Geez,
I'm like you, Hillary. I feel like I'm choking them down sometimes. Like this is necessary. Oh, but at Black Canyon, I had these like brown sugar mochi candies that Esther gave me in Hong Kong, and
Oh,
I ate them more as like emotional pick-me-ups than I think they had like 12 grams of carbs in them, but it was more about just like, oh, my friend gave me this and it's warming my heart that I get to like think of her while I eat this.
Oh,
Oh,
that's sweet.
that's just the
So
best.
fuel can not only serve a purpose like metabolically, but also emotionally.
That's how I feel about pierogies.
Oh,
Little trail
They
side
remind me of
pierogi.
my grandma.
oh, that's so important.
It is. I really think it is.
My favorite, just while we're talking about food, are like Trader Joe's, the little like 99-cent packets of olives. I don't know if you guys have ever
Mhm.
used those, but they have
Mm.
500 milligrams of sodium in a package. It's very efficient. Like those to me, like I look forward to that. I like the salty stuff.
I've had such wishful thinking with those, Hillary. I have those in like all of my crew baskets for all my races, and I'm like, I'm gonna want these. And then I never do. But I
Nope.
really enjoy them on like training runs and stuff.
Totally. I'm always fishing them out of my pack when I'm in the car. I'm like,
Mhm.
I
snack.
feel like if I'm going to be eating something, it better have a lot of calories in it. Like I want calories.
Yeah.
Olives do have a lot of calories in them.
Well, those ones don't. To be fair, those are like
Oh,
45 calories a packet. It's just salt. For me, that's like a salt reset. It's
okay.
not for the calories,
Have
but
you guys ever been tested? Like your sodium
I'm
level?
not.
No, but I want
No.
to.
I got
I'm
it
curious.
couple years ago after my first Western States, and my sodium was way off. And then
Like low?
yeah, way low, like way,
Huh.
way low. It was so hot, and I mean, I was like loopy the last 20 miles, and just out of it. And it had nothing to do with
Oh, you're saying in the race it was off, not your testing was off.
no. So then I got tested. It was actually through Precision Hydration. I was an early adopter, but they just had a sweat test location near where I was. And so I got it done. It wasn't cheap, but I was like, this is priceless, And I remember David Roach was like, just take it with a grain of salt kind of a thing. But I was like, no, I'm going to be a professional. I'm going to do this right. And I went and got sweat tested and then used that information and like went and weighed myself before and after when it was hot outside, like over 100 degrees in Bishop and similar, weather, Western states. And then weighed myself. So I knew how much fluid I was losing. And then I knew my salt loss and I calculated everything. And I was like, I've got this. And then Western states came and my crew kept me so cool, even though it was over 100 degrees. I was so cool all day. And my ice was I'm just dialed, right? Like the cooling technique, my crew was so on fire. So on fire? Can you say that? They were so that I wasn't hot all day. So I just wasn't sweating as much. So then I had way too much salt and then ended up just like
Oh,
puking my way the last 60 miles or
no.
40 miles. It was like
Interesting.
full on to keep anything down. But it was because it was too much salt. And I was like, oh man. So now I just taste salt caps. And if it tastes good, then I take it. If it doesn't taste good,
Smart.
and it's like completely changed on how it's all about how I perceive everything. I don't use music anymore. I go off completely feel. I'm thinking about my needs constantly. Like, what do I feel like? What do I want electrolytes right now? Do I just want water right now? I'm going to go off what I feel. And that to me was a game changer. So taste those salt caps before you just pop them. Those,
How
I
do you
don't think I could
taste
do
them?
that.
Because they're encapsulated.
what's
Or
up?
maybe you have a different kind, but how do you taste them? Because they're like
I
encapsulated. You crack them open?
crack them open and put it on my tongue. If it tastes good, then I take it.
Huh. I like that. I think that's the problem with the salt testing. Like I want to do it too, but it's testing you in one particular environment. So like, yeah, if it holds true for the particular race day, it is super helpful. But that's the beautiful thing about ultra running and like our sport is that we can't control everything perfectly. So you do have to be really in touch with your body.
Totally. And that's a good lesson that you learned, Katie. And just, I think for all of us, like, you can dial in all these things and be like, I'm going to take in this much per hour or whatever. But like Leo, what you're saying, if you're still hungry, have another gel. Like there's no formula really other than how you're feeling. And I think the races where you're really in tune with how you're feeling and you're constantly checking in, those are the ones where everything, you're just going to have a better day, right? So it's good to remember for all the science and math that we pour into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Rachel, okay, so just thinking back on Gorge, fast 30K with like such a stacked field, what was sort of the thing you took away from the whole race?
I think I already kind of said this, but just like I think there's a lot of value in racing when you don't feel like you're 100%. I think, at least for me, I regret more often the times that I don't race than the times that I do. And if you can race and not put yourself back any, whether it's like if you're legitimately injured, obviously don't race. Or if you're legitimately sick, like fever, you're really not feeling well, don't race. If you have a little bit of a snotty nose, it's probably fine. I think just like, yeah, don't try to be perfect all the time. And I hear Tyler saying this to his high school athletes, like they're a little bit, some of them are a little bit obsessed with things just kind of being perfect. Like, I got to start my warm up at this time. I got to eat this thing. And I was totally like that in high school. But Tyler will say to his athletes, you can perform well under a multitude of conditions. You don't need to have the perfect warm up. You don't need to have the perfect lunch. Like, prove to yourself that you can perform well under a lot of different conditions. And I think that just pays dividends down the road. Because if I get to Western States and I have a little bit of a snotty nose or something, I know that I can still perform under those conditions. So I think that was a big like lesson. And just, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really important to remember because I think there's very few days when we show up and everything's gone well. And like, I mean, so many times, even just the night before when you don't sleep well, like it's so easy to get in your head and just be like, like, or maybe you don't get to poop before the race starts. Like that's usually my problem. Like, damn
That's
it, it's going to be a
important. Oh,
long
that's
day.
so hard. Yeah. Somebody
Yeah.
just told me that, like, apparently, and Leah and Katie, maybe you can verify this. Tyler didn't tell me this. I can't remember who. Apparently at Western States, there's like a time in the race where everyone stops and poops.
Maybe the
No?
Quick
boys.
poll.
Not together, but it's like your breakfast hits, or I don't know. Apparently there's like a moment where
There's a
like
really busy
you'll just
porty
be
potty.
running and it's like everyone's going to the bathroom. Not, maybe I'm exaggerating, but like,
I mean, I was never running with Tyler, so
no, Tyler wasn't the one who told me this. I can't
Oh.
remember who it was. It was someone who ran Western States. I don't remember.
Okay, well,
Gosh, I
this
don't
year
even.
we're going to do a poll, Leah and Rachel. We're going to be like, where'd you
Now
guys
I'm
poop?
racking my
When
brain. I'm like, when did
yeah.
I go to the bathroom in Western States? When was the first time?
If you're listening to this and you have firsthand knowledge, please message us and tell us if
we
this is true.
Yeah,
'Cause
Rachel
I'm
needs
so
to know.
curious. Do you guys poop in 100-milers?
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean
usually late in the race.
that race that I was talking to you about, that the sodium was way too high. I was just like, oh, I don't even need to go into details. It was a lot of fluids in all directions. My body was literally shutting down, and I was like determined. And then I also had a broken foot, so that was fun. That was a great race. Loved that day. But yeah, I mean, there was no like. I mean, I think lots of people saw me. Like it was like I couldn't escape it. Like it was.
You just like abandoned your dignity somewhere along the
What do
trail.
you do? I mean, you're laughing because you're just like, I don't know what to do. I have like no control. It was horrible. It was horrible.
Yeah.
But
And it's interesting too, because I think the big issue that people often talk about in ultra running is not taking in enough sodium. Like, I'm cramping, I'm not taking in enough sodium. People rarely talk about the overconsumption of sodium
don't do
because
it.
what's
Don't.
interesting is like your symptoms are actually quite similar when you're overdoing the sodium, when you're underdoing sodium. So you treat it similarly. And like, I've been in
Mm.
Katie's shoes too. And unfortunately, it cost me a golden ticket at Bandera in 2022 or something. I don't even know. But like I was suffering from the same thing. I thought I was just not able to handle the humid environment of Texas. And so I was over supplementing with salt. But turns out
Mm.
it ends to like ends with major
You were
GI distress, and
hypernatremia.
it's not worth it.
That's so interesting.
Like oral, it's like passing it down, right? Like you can't read this in a textbook per se. It's you kind of have to experience it, and then you have to listen to podcasts and read articles and find out from other runners what they've experienced, and so that you kind of learn from it for the next time. So if you are trying to do this precision hydration or sweat test or whatever it is, don't just go off that. You got to go off some feel, because it's real. It can absolutely derail your race. So yeah, tips and tricks.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, I was going to ask you guys, what's your go-to pre-race meal? What is your like staple that you eat the night before a race? Especially when you're traveling, because that's always hard.
Yeah. I usually do, we make jasmine rice with coconut milk quite often, so we'll do that and chicken thighs. And that's usually my jam. Mike cooks it for me because he's very nice.
Mike, you're the
Yum.
best. We love you.
Yeah, sounds good. Now I'm hungry. Wait, are you saying dinner or breakfast? Is that what you
No, like dinner the night before.
had before?
Because everyone overthinks that one, right?
I usually have pasta, like plain pasta with some protein. Yeah. But I'm not really. Sometimes I have pizza. I don't know. I don't really have a set thing that I have to do. It's like whatever's convenient. I do
Yeah.
Mexican. That's the only thing I won't do. It's
No
literally
Mexican, no Indian
no
food.
salad, no Mexican. Yeah.
I try not to be too obsessed. I feel like this is probably not a good one, but I actually like to eat sushi, like salmon sushi. I feel like maybe it's because I studied fat metabolism in grad school. I like to just envision like my little intracellular lipid droplets just plumping up with fat before the race, and there's a lot of good fats in salmon, so this episode is brought to you by Osprey Packs, the top-notch pack company celebrating 50 years. Happy birthday, Osprey! As the snow starts melting in the high country, I personally can't wait for long adventure days, and Osprey makes the best fast packs. Their Talon Tempest packs are so lightweight. I've been on several multi-day adventures in my Tempest Pro and have honestly forgotten that I was wearing a pack. That's how comfortable and wonderfully engineered the pack is. The Talon Tempest Velocity was just released, and it's sure to be a favorite. Go get yours at osprey.com or your favorite local retailer.
I have not done salmon before, but I love the idea of just like visualizing like what it's doing to your body. I usually do like pasta, like same as you, Katie, and a glass of red wine because I always feel like then I sleep well. So I don't know if that actually works, but sends me right to bed.
You do a glass of red wine before you race?
A little one, like a little tiny one. Yeah, but like, okay, I'm not racing quite as fast as you guys are. So for me, maybe I can get away with that. If I was trying to run one of the 50Ks as fast as you guys are, then maybe I wouldn't. But yeah, I don't know. I've done it for years. It's like my little tradition.
No,
Like
I
it's
like that,
almost
Hillary.
like
I'll occasionally split a beer with Mike too, and I think it's like it's a routine and it's something we share, and I feel like it keeps me not taking things too seriously and
that's what it is.
keeps me
Yes.
calm.
It's like
I
me
think that's
psychologically saying that this is not the most important thing and that I still have other things that are important to me. And like, it's almost like that. Like I take a little stand on like, this isn't going to totally take over my life. This is just one thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
But you know, that's just my opinion. Don't
And
necessarily.
like you got to the race. Like the race is the celebration part. Like you did all the training, and of course the training's fun, right? But like sometimes it's not fun. Or you're showing up to race day, and this is the party. Like this is a good time. This is like to show off all of the work that you put into and have a good time with it. And it's like little celebratory drink before. Like cheers
Mhm.
to it.
Tiny one, just a little one.
You're like,
Yeah.
hey, what about caffeine? What do you guys do for the morning of? Do you guys have caffeine before you race?
Yes. I couldn't poop if I didn't have coffee, so the two go hand in hand.
I'll normally, if I can get some coffee, I do some coffee, but sometimes it's hard with traveling, so I don't always get it. But I do similar to what Rachel does with the gel before the start. And if I'm doing that and I haven't had my coffee yet that morning, I'll do a caffeinated gel before the start, and that really like gets me going.
And caffeine is legit performance enhancing. Like it decreases your perceived exertion. So if you're trying to be really like perfect with your nutrition, technically we should consume some caffeine before the race. I'm not sure how that translates to 100 milers though, if you want to just be a little more steady Eddie. But for sure, for like shorter, faster things, I think that's optimal. I really have been into tea lately. I feel like coffee just like kind of hurts my gut. So if I can just bring like some tea packets with me and maybe put a little bit of cream in there, that's like,
Mm.
that'll do the trick.
I just had
Yeah.
this flashback to the Gorge. I think in 2014 when I ran it. The 100K started at like 4 a.m. and I had to get up at 2:45. I just remember I had to set my alarm clock at 2:45 a.m. And so I went to Starbucks the night before the race and I got coffee and I put it in my thermos and then it was still warm when I got up in the middle of the night.
Smart.
And I was like so proud of myself. I was like, I hacked the system.
Genius.
But I just remembered that like I had to set my alarm for 2:45 and I was like, how am I going to get coffee?
Man, that reminds me, for Canyons in a couple weeks, I think the shuttle for that race leaves at like 2:30 in the morning to go out to China Wall. So just imagine like
Does it
that.
really?
I think it's pretty early. Maybe it's waking up at 2:30 in order to get the shuttle to go out. But like
God.
Rachel's talking about racing in imperfect situations and like not being able to control everything. And I think racing in those scenarios prepares you for these like really like less than ideal situations. And like I'm thinking about like
Yeah.
caffeine and race prep and breakfast and stuff like that. So don't quote me on the time, but I know it's really, really early. And I think, yeah, doing like racing, like you said, Rach, under any circumstance prepares you for like those big days and when things aren't going to be exactly how you want them.
Well,
And
and not just racing, like training, right? When you wake up and you're like, oh crap, it's pouring rain or it's snowing or it's hailing or whatever, really windy out, miserable conditions. That's when you're like, all right, let's go. This is time to practice because that could be race day easily, and it's used
yeah.
as a chance to practice.
Black Canyons was a perfect example.
Totally.
Yeah, with
Wake up,
like,
start,
oh,
just kidding.
the race is 2 hours delayed. Oh, it's delayed another 30 minutes. And if you're, unable to deal with adversity or perform under, any sort of last minute changes, that's not going to be good for you. And if that happens on your A race, which for a lot of people, golden ticket races are your A race, it's like, yeah, you got to practice dealing with some challenges.
Totally. Did you take an extra gel, Rachel, when you had that time? Were you like
I
trying to eat
probably
more?
should have, but I don't think I did. I definitely should have. And I had like weird poops all day that day. So I don't know that it was like the start, or maybe it was a salt problem actually. Who knows?
Yeah, because it wasn't that hot. And then there was like some
No.
clean and like there's some moments of that was a weird weather day for sure. Because
Yeah.
it was hot. Did you ever feel hot out there?
Not really, no.
Kind of cool. And then I remember feeling like I want my sweatshirt, I want to take it off, and then I'm like need a rain jacket and I take it off. Yeah,
Keely paced me in a jacket.
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, I felt good in my tank top, but yeah, it's weird.
Always learning.
Always learning.
Oh man, you guys, where does the time fly? This has been fun. I figured we should end. I want to do a little round table. And let's just go around and kind of share something that we're either hooked on right now or that we're intrigued by, or something that's just sort of like piqued our interest this week that is like food for thought for everybody. So, Rachel, put you on the spot first.
Okay, I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but I have been obsessed with Buy Nothing. Have you guys heard of that? It's like
Yeah.
a Facebook group for your local area where you can just list things that you're getting rid of. And since we're moving to Salt Lake City in 2 months, I'm trying to clean house. And it's just been so rewarding to go on there and get things that I'm trying to get rid of into the hands of someone who really wants to use them right in my community. Like, I wish I had known about this before, because it's like I'm connecting with my neighbors. I think, sometimes when we bring things to Goodwill, I never know. I feel like it's just going in the dumpster. But I also have gotten a few items off of there. For those watching on YouTube, the sweater that I'm wearing, I got on
Which is
Buy
very
Nothing.
cute.
I love
And it
that.
also is giving me warm, fuzzy vibes because it just is like reminding me of my community. So I highly recommend getting connected with your neighborhood Buy Nothing group.
Oh, I love
I
that.
love that. I've been interacting with mine for years here, and I always tell Mike that I'm like, I like donating stuff, but at the same time, I like donating it in that way because it's you connect with others, and I know where my stuff is going then, which I always appreciate, rather than like I'm closing the loop on it, which I really like.
That's a great one. Good takeaway. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Hillary,
Anyone else got anything?
Hillary, you go.
Oh, well, I've been leading a trail clinic for Arc'teryx for the last few weeks, and I just have to say that it's fun to like remember how cool it is to learn again and to be around people that are just wanting to soak up knowledge. So we had the second one yesterday, and I just came away feeling really inspired by just like the feeling of never stopping learning and never like like you kind of feel like, oh, I've been doing this for a long time and I know everything, and then just had a couple people kind of peppering me with questions, and it's just like fun. And it's like even just this like riffing off of like ideas and remembering things you've done right or wrong, or just like being reminded of how much that you're constantly learning is just what I love about the sport. And I love just like having the chance to connect with other people and to see them growing and stuff. So I think if anything, I'm very connected to the community. And being new to LA in the last like year and a half, for me, like making community is also really important. So that's like a huge part of why I wanted to do it, is just to like meet people here and to kind of grow something. So that's kind of my big one, is just like connecting with other trail runners from all different stages of their journeys and my journey, and just being reminded of like just how special that is to have that in common.
If you're in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
hit up Hillary.
It's, you know what? It's funny. It's such a big city, but I feel like it's got a great little soul to it, and especially the trail running community. Like it's really surprised me. It's not just a giant concrete jungle, and the trails are amazing. And it's like, I mean,
It's like
I don't know. I don't want to tell everyone because it's kind of a secret, but it's great. So
there's so many hidden trailheads that you have to go through neighborhoods to get to them. And yeah, if you
oh
don't
yeah.
know somebody that knows somebody, yeah, you would never know to get there. It's really cool.
Like we were like deep in the mountains, like saw nobody, and it's foggy and moody, and you're just like, this is LA. Like it was like legit. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that and getting to explore new places. So that's
Yeah,
mine.
I love that. I think for me, this is running related as well, but it was in my mind this weekend, and it's the idea of if you're coached by somebody, you don't always need to stick to the training schedule if it's not jiving with you on that particular day, or if your mental health is being better served in other places. I Mike and I we went out to Lake Sonoma this past weekend, and Friday was a really nice weather day, and we were staying in the Bay Area with our friend Elon and Gabby. And we ended up doing our long run on Friday. And I went far longer than I probably should have, and especially for where I'm at in training right now. But it was just one of those experiences where, felt good. Mental health was good. It was serving my mental health well. And I think sometimes we get really hung up on following our training plans to the T every single day in and day out, because we've got big goals. But at the same time, I think we're all doing this for fun. And I think that's what I fall back on oftentimes, is the reason that I do this sport is to have fun. And yeah, I want to push myself and get better, but sometimes sticking to the training plan exactly isn't quite it. So treat yourself sometimes. And I mean, don't go overboard and injure yourself, but enjoy the little moments because you don't always get those.
It's like 80-20, right? With
Totally.
everything.
I feel like we also underestimate the power of our intuition with guiding our training. And like science is great and all, but I think we all have a secret power within ourselves, especially the longer we do this, and just knowing what we need on that day. And so I think listening to that little voice is really good.
100%.
I'm gonna say too, when it feels good, sometimes you just gotta let it go, like roll with it. Because then there's gonna be other days that the training plan tells you to do something and you don't feel good and you have to cut it short. and you're really happy that you banked some of those miles. That felt really good. And so it's back to that intuition, but using that intuition to say, maybe go longer, maybe go shorter today.
I think the same. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little distracted here, but I'm like so passionate about this. Like, I think the same thing applies for pacing. Like, I don't know, if you're doing pace-based workouts, if you're not hitting your paces, but you feel like the effort is there, just like don't look at your watch. Just go off of effort. And I was training with this, I think she's like early 20s. Her name's Malia Pivek. She just had graduated from the University of Oregon. We are training for CIM together this fall, and we're doing these 1,200-meter repeats. I was getting all up in a tizzy because we weren't hitting the splits. And she just looked at me and goes, "Feels hard enough for me. I'm just going to stop looking at my watch." And I think about that all the time. Like, just go off of how you feel and have the confidence to know that like that's what you need for that day. And some days it'll be faster than your coach wrote.
Totally.
I love that so much. I feel like even like time of month, I mean, we could go down a whole other rabbit hole, but like my energy changes so much, like depending on where I am in my cycle and my period. And like, you just have to always remember that with like what's written on the paper versus how you're feeling. And yeah, we don't talk about it enough for sure.
Katie, what's
any
your
last
recommendation?
Okay, so I guess I have two things here. To take advantage of what's in front of you. Is that obviously cliche? But so my mom and my sisters do a retreat every year, just us, and it's a getaway. I'm one of 5 kids, so the brothers aren't invited, the spouses aren't invited, no kids, just my sisters and my mom. And we get away and just pause and kind of check in with each other. Where are we in our life? What do we want to work on this year? And it's not a new, like a resolution. It's just a like being. And yeah, it's just, we always come out of it just feeling so free that there's nothing weighing us down. And it's so beautiful. And it was really cool this year because we ended up doing it in Lone Pine, because I'm driving to LA a lot lately. So they were like, we're going to come to you. So I only had to drive an hour and a half. And that happens to be where I'm doing a race in 2 weeks for gravel cycling. And I was like, I'm going to go recon the race. So it was a perfect combination of being able to get out. And I did my first 50-mile gravel race or gravel recon of the race course. And it was so hard. And I went into it being like, pretending I was racing it and just kind of like racing times from last year and having no idea what I'm doing. My chain fell off twice, all these things, right? But it was so fun. And I felt that feeling, that sense of like fire again and competition, even though it's just me out there, like adventure and not knowing what was around the corner, and just finishing that ride feeling completely spent and like felt like I redlined at the end, like I was going for it. To the point where it's like I made the most of that day, almost to the I don't even need to race it because I felt like I just raced it and I got what I needed out of it. And it was so fun, and I was filthy and I was tired and I was hungry and I was sticky from all the gels. It was so wonderful. And then to go right to the Airbnb where my mom and my sisters were, and to just have this amazing weekend together and just feeling so like emptied of all ego and need and just being. And it felt so good. And I'm really happy that I went for it. And I kind of took that as an opportunity to push myself in that way because it's a new sport for me and I didn't know, but it was really, really special. So I guess my takeaway is to pause with family, friends, just yourself, at least once a year, to just take some time away from it all and set your priorities, kind of look inward about what's important to you, and then take advantage of what's right in front of you that you might be missing. That's that's what's not leaving me this week.
Good words to end on. Thank you guys. So good chatting and lots to kind of take away and ponder from this. So looking forward to the next one, and I hope everyone has a great week. Thank you all for tuning in and listening. We'll see you soon.